Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of Move, Crush, Count. I am your host, Scott Joseph. Move, Crush, Count is proudly sponsored by J&L Marketing, the digital and direct marketing agency that helps you outsmart your competition so you can quit trying to outspend them. Visit J&L Marketing today so you can learn how their innovative approach will help you move the crowd, crush the competition, and count the money. In this episode, we've got an exciting topic: the art of leadership, unveiling business success through Jiu Jitsu insights. Our guest is the definition of entrepreneur, Matt Shoup, true inspiration. Literally started a company with $100, and within 4 years, it's now over $30 million company. I will make sure I got that right. Is that any, Matt? First off, welcome to the show, Matt.
Hey, thanks for having me. And I'm sorry, I'm a few minutes late today. The reality is we didn't prep before. It was like 2:02. You're like, we're live, let's go. So thank you for having me. I apologize that I was a few minutes late.
Those are always the best interviews, though.
They are. They are.
Let me ask you a question. Let's dive right into this thing. Talk to me. I've heard of a lot of people starting companies. I started my own with not much, but $100 is about the lowest I've ever heard, especially taking it to the level you've taken it. Walk us through that story. How'd that happen?
Yeah, happy to, would love to. And that's really the business origin story. And it was a point in my life where I had my back up against the wall. I had nothing. I had about 172,000 less than nothing. I was massively in debt and got kicked out of a bank and fired from a corporate banking job that I hated. So, and just to clarify, because the way it's written, some people get it confused. Our company today does between about 2 and 3 million a year, depending on the year. So to date, from 05, we've done 30 million plus. But yeah, I was standing there in 2005 on a Tuesday afternoon, kicked out of a bank, and I had all my stuff in a banker's box. This new bank president comes in, and it was like the best, worst day of my life. He said, put all your stuff in a box, get out, you're fired. And then he said, you should go do that painting thing. And he cinched his tie up, and I'm not employee material. I never was, never have been, never will be. And I had to go make something happen. Short-sightedly, I had 28 days to make $2,800. So when I started, the minimum opening balance of the bank account, the minimum deposit you needed was $100. If I could have done it with 50, I would have done it with 50. I'm a sell before you have kind of a guy. So literally went home, told my wife, hey, I got fired. We had a longer lunch than normal because I didn't have to go back to work. And she said, what are you going to do about it? And I said, hey, I painted houses in college for 4 years. I had experience there. And we decided to launch M&D Painting. And I just went out and did one thing. I knocked on doors till the sun went down to generate leads, turn those into appointments, which turned into contracts and money.
Why do you think you had, maybe it was desperation, maybe it was because your back was against the wall, but I don't believe that. I believe that maybe played a part initially.
Yeah.
Why do you think you had passion, not necessarily for the painting, but ending up becoming an entrepreneur versus, the banking route that you were at?
Yeah. So the business origin story, that's when I'm 22 years old, right? Back in 2005. The story prior to that story is growing up in New Jersey till I was 10. I got bullied severely growing up. And I share that because that was a big part of my story. I was very scared of the world. Like I got physically beaten in school, got emotionally beaten in school. And I was scared of the world. I had zero confidence and I was an easy target, right? So we moved from New Jersey to Colorado when I'm 10 years old. And as I'm just scared and not confident, I asked my parents for $200 for a boom box to play CDs, CD players. And they said, find a way to go make your own money. We're not going to give you $200. That's crazy. This was back in the 90s. Like that's a lot of money still, So I took their lawnmower and I went and knocked on doors. They said, find a way to make the money. I went and knocked on doors. And that was my connection to entrepreneurship. I was a creative kid. I was a storyteller as a kid. I got in trouble a lot and I was smart. But I was labeled a troublemaker, labeled hey, you're never going to get anywhere with this. You're trouble. So I thought I was. But then I made $2,000 when I was 10 years old over a couple months in the summer. And I knew at that point, I'm a business guy, marketing, sales, gift to gab, taking nothing, turning it into something. So that was my JV experience. But more importantly, more profoundly and deeply for me as a young boy, learning how to grow up in the world and eventually become a man, business, making money, gave me certainty, security, value. I felt love. I felt acceptance, all those things that we need as people that connected through entrepreneurship with me. And I found out I was pretty good at knocking on doors and selling stuff. So
The selling part, if you're good at that, that always helps, doesn't it?
oh yeah, no, yeah, sales is everything. Anybody that says I don't like sales, I don't do sales, yes, you do. If you ever asked your parents to stay out late, have a sleepover, if you were married and you had to convince a spouse to marry you, right? List goes on.
That's correct. So, I'm assuming you're not getting picked on anymore. You're a jiu-jitsu black belt now, correct?
Yeah. I don't anymore. What's actually really cool, I'm at a point in my life where my story has an opportunity to meet other people's stories and meet them where they're at to make their life better. And this process of teaching others to improve and protect their life through jiu-jitsu, self-defense, and leadership, it's actually healing and restoring for me, going back to young Matt who didn't have that, to say, hey, like, you're okay. So that's really cool. But no, like, physically, people aren't going to push me around. And because of what I've gone through, I've decided to take a stand and a vow to stand for others that can't stand for themselves. So when I see that, if you mess with the people that I love or that I care for, I'll tell you once, tell you twice, I'll ask you nicely. We can sit down and talk about it over coffee. But if it gets to a point where physically they need help, I'm happy to help. And it's really cool to have those tools. And I don't ever want to use them, I never want to use those. I've had the opportunity to, but
you don't want to use. You want to use them, but you won't use them.
So I would love to spend the rest of my life. No, and I promise you this: I don't ever want to put hands on somebody and have to physically hurt them, restrain them, whatever. I'm absolutely prepared to, because I know the power of how powerful jiu-jitsu is. If you grab somebody in the right way, you can kill them with your bare hands.
Yeah.
And I don't ever want to do that. If I ever need to, I will. I'm prepared to. If you threaten my family. But jiu-jitsu is cool because it doesn't, like, here's why self-defense seminars so many times are BS is, what do you do if the guy grabs you by the neck in the back alley behind target? Why are you in the back alley behind target? There's psychologically, positionally, situationally, there's so many things that you can do before something gets physical. What I've learned in jiu-jitsu more so is the psychological, mental aspect of being under immense amounts of pressure where you need to make critical decisions, and you can do so patiently. At first, jiu-jitsu feels like you're getting thrown into a pool and you can't swim and you're drowning. So what do? You panic. And I know that. I almost drowned when I was a little kid. So it allows you to be calm under pressure, thoughtful, and use a lot of your opponent's energy and tensions against them and for your benefit within the conditions that you're in. So I love it. It changed my life in so many ways.
I could go on and on about this. But then everybody be like, was this a podcast about jiu-jitsu or what is it, or business, right? But we're going to talk about what you've learned. Eventually, we're going to get into what you learned from that and how it's helped you. But in terms of like your journey through becoming an entrepreneur, how has that shaped your perspective on leadership?
Because your business, your company, your organization will only grow to the degree that you do. And I didn't realize that for a long time. Leadership was always this buzzword that's out there, right? Is leadership. Define it. Go ahead, right? You ask 10 different people, 10 different definitions. What I view leadership as my story meeting your story, and we're going to make each other's stories better because we get one life to live. And business is just a playing field in which humans can interact and connect with each other to bring value to each other. And then we get compensated for it. But for me, I didn't understand I needed to work on myself personally and become better. And then, so how do I teach that to other people? How do I then teach them to teach that to other people? So your business will only grow to the capacity that you do and that you lead, and that you lead other people to lead others. It's this contribution cycle. And that's how I view leadership.
Listen, I'm going to take that. I'm going to give you credit the first two times. I love that. So I wrote that your company will only grow as much as you do. I wrote it down. I don't know why I write things down. We're recording all this as well. So, but I do. First two times I use it, I'll give you credit. After that, it's mine.
Dude, you can steal it, man. Yeah. Well, what's new, right? So what's new information? All of this stuff for me, I'm a Jesus follower, right? This is all, this comes from the Bible. This comes from we're humans on this planet together. And how do we love on people? How do we give people certainty, value, love, acceptance, and have fun doing it? And that's literally how I view business. But yeah, all the R&D, rip off and duplicate. I mean, I didn't make any, I might have made the tagline up maybe, but somebody said it in another way before. We say pour into people here. Pour into people.
I like it.
Yeah.
Listen, we've got some frequent audience members, and we're streaming live right now on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Depending on which social platform you're on, some of the comments stream in. If they're good, we'll put them up there. They good or bad. Sometimes we put them all up there. If that happens, we'll do it. We can answer some questions on the spot, but depending on the platform you might be on, we do not get them all through StreamYard, which is the streaming device that we get. So if we don't see your comment right away, we'll get back to it on the platform when we're done with the show at some point here within the next 24 hours. So we will get back to you, but throw your questions up, throw your comments up. We always appreciate anything you guys have to say out there in the audience or any questions you have. So let's get back to the jiu-jitsu for a second.
Yeah.
How has that, because, that's the title of the show. So how has that shaped your leadership or your approach to business?
So jiu-jitsu, it's called the gentle art. So it is actually a gentle way of physically manipulating somebody if you need to protect yourself and keep yourself safe, right? There's a self-defense, there's a sports component. It's all about leverage, timing, technique, and being resourceful with the resources you have. So I created actually the Gentle Art of Leadership coaching program. And again, it's a culmination of all the best leadership, personal development, business tools and things that I've learned. But I just use the analogy of my journey through jiu-jitsu. This is year 16. From the day I saw it from the outside, stepped on the mats to where I am today, it parallels my business and leadership journey. So one example is leadership is this buzzword sometimes. So let's clearly define what that is. Let's give it a meaning. And you have to have a meaning. You have to have some common language. But then everybody, I'm not a good leader. I don't know how to lead. Well, I didn't know how to do jiu-jitsu. I stepped onto the mat. So point one is every journey begins with that first step. My first jiu-jitsu class, I stepped on the mats and I was a 220-pound meathead, lots of ego, lots of attitude. I was going to come in and crush this kid. And I said, how does jiu-jitsu work? I had a lot to prove because out of that bullying came ego and attitude and other things. And they're like, go with that guy over there. I said, that little guy over there, what do I do to him? I mean, seriously. And this other little guy goes, oh, just pin him down and just hold him there for a minute, make sure he knows your boss. And then you choke him or arm lock him and he'll tap out. He'll tap out. So it seems easy enough. And then my buddy Noah, who's now still a good friend, hits me on the back. He squeezes my arm. He's like, go easy on him. This kid, I'm 26, 220 pounds, just jacked weightlifter, this 140, 150 pound, 17-ish year old kid. I come after him, right? Here's the objective: drive forward, accomplish goal, eat lunch, go home, right? And this kid grabs me, flips me, puts me on my back, jumps on top, spins around. He's choking me, he's arm locking me, and I'm just tapping out, crying like a baby. So that lesson teaches me that, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you're about to step into. Leadership's overwhelming. It literally was like getting thrown into a pool. I couldn't swim and I panicked and I freaked out. So that's what happens. We get into business. Maybe we are a great technician. I'm a great painter. So I'm going to go start a painting company. Oh man, now I'm really busy. I need to go hire somebody. Great. We have this other life that we're in charge of and have to care for. What's their story? What are their goals? What's their vision? I didn't know any of this. I just said, you work for me, go to work, very X's and O's business. So leadership initially, at least for me and many that I work with, is you don't know what you don't know. It's that unconscious, was it conscious incompetence or unconscious incompetence? And from there, that journey just continues. You come back. Other people are alongside the journey for you. Sometimes it's great just to be patient in leadership examples. So I could go on and on with more examples, but that's the
Well, I was going to
essence
ask
and
you, like,
feel.
what would be a specific, like, give me a specific lesson, or example that you took. First off, I want to commend you.
Yeah.
I interview a lot of people here, and my office here makes fun of me because they say I just assume that everyone's just like me. In other words, has the same thoughts,
Right.
beliefs, values, the whole thing, right? But I do believe this. I believe all great entrepreneurs have a knack. There's an intuition in them where they're able to look at something, no matter what they're looking at. It could be completely unrelated to their business.
Mm.
And they somehow have, it's like when I'm watching the way maybe a movie's introduced, or maybe I go and I'm checking into a hotel, or I'm renting a car, it doesn't matter what the process is. Literally, or someone's even teaching me. My brain looks at it two halves. One, what am I trying to accomplish right now and or learn or achieve or whatever? But the other half's always like, oh, I like that. How could that works with my business. I can incorporate that in. And so I just
Yes.
love the way you took jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
because you did that, whether you did it consciously or subconsciously. That's what you did. You
Yeah.
sat there and said,
Yeah.
this applies. This is why this helps me here. And I love that. And so I guess what
Yeah.
I'm asking is, what specific, give me a specific though, in
Yeah.
terms of like a lesson that, man, here's one, I took it, applied it to leadership, and this is how it helped.
Absolutely. So, and I'll speak about it within, say, business development or leading other people, because I really see your business journey. It's the same as a life journey where you're just people coming together, right? And we're serving each other. So, and I'll also preface that Gentle Art of Leadership, the program that we actually have now, the experiences we do, everything we do, from seminars here to trips to Spain, started as a blog post in 2015, 16. Somebody said, hey, there's kind of some similarities. So I thought about them and I wrote them out. Then it turned into a leadership training program for our jiu-jitsu instructors. And then we go, we're on to something there. So a specific example is when I started my business, like many business owners do, I did not have a lot of resources. I did not have a lot of capital. I had $100. So within that $100, I had to use those resources to the best of my ability. And I was standing up against a giant. I was David, there was Goliath. There's always the big guy in town. I said, how am I going to compete with this guy paying $4,000 a month in the phone book, right? While it's just me, he's got a team. I said, well, I have $100. I'm going to be resourceful with that money. And I went and bought $28 worth of crooked cut business cards at Kinko's, and I knocked on doors and I used what I had. I didn't try to be or do what I don't have and what I can't do. So it's that little kid that choked me out. He didn't have 220 pounds of muscle. He let me use my own energy against me. He waited for me to charge in and then took advantage of me. So aligning that business example to that jiu-jitsu example is, you use what you have and don't worry about what you don't have or what you're not. Jiu-jitsu is all about being resourceful with what you have, and it will speak a lot to your personality style, your body type, things like that. So for the business and leadership example, I didn't have any people to lead. It was just me, right? Then I get to the level where I have people working within the business. I wasn't good about understanding. One of my big failures is why somebody came to work for me. I just thought, hey, I have a paycheck to offer you. You have a service to provide to me. You're a cog in my wheel. I'm your boss. You're my employee. Go get to work. That kind of a thing. I really missed the overarching, because I was young and just didn't know that they have a story. They have a story. They came from somewhere. They're going somewhere. There's a reason they're here. And that's also important as we teach and train jiu-jitsu. Everybody comes to those mats to engage in that sport for a very different reason. And in leadership, when you can connect with why somebody's doing something, not just start with why, like Simon Sinek says, but what's your story? What is that thing? What is that pain, that missing part, that motivation, that desire that's bringing you here to my painting company in 2007, or our jiu-jitsu academy in 2020?
I love that question. I put it at the bottom of the screen here. So, if you're listening to this as a podcast, you're not going to see it, but the question that Matt just put up, why did you come work for us or me? right? I think that's a great question. I don't know if there's a lot. You're the first person I've ever interviewed where that question's been posed. I'd say so. I like when I'm challenged, people challenge the way I think, and I listen. This is all about the audience, but I'm here to learn too. So I love it. I get the side benefit of learning from great people and from experts. Um, what a great question. I mean, do you flat out ask people that question directly, or do you indirectly find out?
I'm very direct. And
Yeah.
because I love one of the things we talk about in Gentle Art of Leadership is your leadership language, your personality, communication style. I'm direct. So I'll come, hey, Scott, why are you here? What's your intention? What do you want?
Yeah.
But if I see that you're like, oh, whoa, okay, maybe you're more of a roundabout recipient of
Well,
communication. But I just go, why are you here? What do you want? Why are you here? And what do you want? Those are, and if you don't know that, what are we talking about?
yeah.
We just had a coaches meeting. We have a 19-year-old amazing student. She is one of our top females here. She came in one day. I want to launch a women's program. Okay. And she showed initiative and determination. And I said, cool, the mats are yours. When do you want to have it? Okay. She goes, I need a little help with the Eventbrite. She filled 30 women in a room just with
That's
that
awesome.
desire and I saw that. I go, she's got something there. Another gentleman, he's in his 50s. We've been training together 17 years. He and I have been talking about launching this combatives program, which is a little, it's what happens when somebody tries to kill you in the street, like that kind of seriousness of a program. He sees this 19-year-old girl, Mia, just with just pure desire and excitement fill a room. And he's like, all right, I got to go fill a room. We just sat right before this meeting that you and I are having. And I said, Mike, what do you want? Why are you here? And he goes, well, I'm in my 50s. I'm on the back end of a career that I want to get out of. And Mia's like, the world is my oyster. I'm just excited about this. But two different intentions. They're here for different places in life, but they all are here because they want to improve and protect the lives of people in our community. But what they each want out of it are different things. Mike wants a vehicle to retire and get off of building houses effectively. And Mia's just excited and she's exploring opportunities at the young age of 19. And then we realized, like, you're 19, we're in our 40s and 50s. We feel old.
I loved her idea. By the way, the example that you just gave, I think a lot of us ask questions in our interview process. Maybe when we're reviewing people, when you're interviewing someone, you're going to ask, what excites you about this opportunity? Why do you want to work here? Things like that. But I think once someone's been in a job 6 months, a year, couple years, man, their values, their knowledge, their insights into what potentially could happen, I think that changes, and why they're there might be different. And if we're never continuously asking that question, right?
Yeah. Got to have a beat on their story coming in and how their story changes. I'm a huge into story. I love telling stories. I love, like Scott, your life, you're writing a book. Everybody's an author. You have a story. You were a tree that fell from your parents, right? A seed, and you were planted in this soil and this foundation, and you grew. And then there's this tree that's present that has, beliefs and experiences and all of these things. And then that drives you and motivates you towards something. Like, I want to know about that if we're going to do something together, because within, right, anybody's story, there's great stuff, empowering stuff, wonderful stuff, amazing stuff. I've got stuff where, like, I know when the Matt that's not on his purpose shows up. Like, there's parts of my story where there's certain times when I go, ooh, that's not the real Matt. I need to check myself. So we need to know that as a team within a company or a partnership. And go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, you brought up purpose, your own purpose, and you check yourself against that. And we've been talking about that recently on the last few episodes. People are probably tired of me saying this, but I just went on a 2-week self-development trip down to Costa Rica.
Ooh, nice.
And so, and I created, it's the first time in 54 years, I created my own I've created plenty of mission statements for businesses, but this was my first personal mission statement. So when you sit there and talk about purpose and checking your activities and your actions against, are you moving closer to accomplishing that mission, or are you doing actions that don't help you or take you further away? I relate to that. And so when you said that, it just hit home with me.
What now? Did you leave that experience? Was this something like that was self-guided, or was this part of a program? Or
I actually contracted a former guest on the show.
okay,
Yeah,
okay. Now, did you
yeah.
leave with like a statement, like a purpose statement, a mission statement? Did you
Oh
leave
yeah.
with something? And what is it? I'd love to know what
Well, I
yours was.
mean, it's a full page long. I could
Okay,
I'm not good, but I could give you the elevator pitch.
yeah.
What the reason I went down there. I'll tell you I'll give you the backstory real quick, but then I want to make sure. This show's not about me, so I will make sure.
Oh, but I
But
love talking about this. This is
yeah,
great.
no,
I want to know about you
absolutely.
more.
Yeah, well, I mean, I sat there and listen. I've had very successful agency, 3 car dealerships, which then leads into real estate and so on, and got it to it where it was 100% passive.
Yep.
Everything I did, and I thought, wow, that's the ultimate dream for me. And got there and realized this kind of sucks.
Yeah.
This isn't that great. This is not what I'm here for. In between this stage, right? I've been doing these leadership retreats, and they really charged me up. I get a lot out of them. I love the feedback I get. And I realize I'm good at uniting people, especially if I can take someone that's got great vision, maybe they got diverse skills, and not even bringing them together with a specific goal in mind, but bringing these people together. And I found that I've got this process that we basically uncover a lot of new ideas, whether it's breakthroughs, new business opportunities emerged out of it. And I'm not even part of all of it, but it's the charge of bringing all this together is what motivates me. And so that's what I'm doing. And, but more importantly, I learned a lot about, first off, I went down there thinking, all right, I'm going to know exactly what I need to do coming out of it. And I did, but I didn't take the path to get there that I thought I was going to do. It was really working a lot of, on me. And quite honestly, 12 to 14 days of all that meditation and working on yourself is exhausting. My wife, I'd call her at night and I'd tell her what we covered. And, I'm a big picture. I'm going to give you the big picture thing of it. I start getting questions. I said, honey, I just spent all day working on me. I can't keep talking about it tonight. I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I said,
right?
Oh, totally exhausted. But, it's weird because Jay Tepley's the person who I went out there with, and she reached out to me on LinkedIn. And right out of the gate, kind of a sales pitch after connecting.
Right.
And I typically ignore those. But for whatever reason, it was the timing. I knew it was something that I was interested in, and it was the way she wrote it, grabbed my attention. And I thought, you know what? Everyone's just like me, right? My guest on the show would probably want to hear this topic. So I interviewed her. And after the show, I told my wife, I said, I feel like I should work with her. Something's telling me to work with her. And so I followed that instinct, and man, I got to tell you, I'm clear. So I know my purpose. I know my mission now, and charged about it. So
I love that.
So wait, you say this stuff, man, it rings home for me, buddy.
Well, and if, for your business owners that are listening. So for me, people come to me a lot of times, hey, I've got a marketing issue, I've got a sales issue, I've got a profit issue. And what we find out pretty quickly is they have a purpose issue, they have a program issue, they have a deeper issue. So it's like anything, right? It's like people come to you with what they think they want or need, and you really help them uncover and discover what it really is. But you said something that it keeps sticking with me is, I spent 14 days working on myself. We're leaders, we're business owners, we have other people we're responsible for. That's a huge weight. And then we're men, and we're not supposed to be soft, and we're not supposed to get up, like we're supposed to be put on. And there's this whole other topic of like mental health and male vulnerability, and where that needs to be this big explosion of vulnerability within men. But like just in general as people, when do we get to work on ourselves? When I say pour into people, like if this thing's empty, my cup's empty, I've got nothing to give to you. But we're told in leadership, pour into others, put others before yourself. No, be selfish, fill your cup, go spend another 14 days, go spend 7 in Spain with us on the Camino or whatever it is, or find somebody that where you can fill your cup, because you can't give what you don't have. And
Yeah.
and it's taxing.
You
Super,
gotta
super
invest a
taxing.
lot of time working on
Yeah.
things versus in them, meaning your business, but at the same time working on yourself. It's not selfish to do that. So, in
Yeah.
fact, I would say it's unselfish to work on you. When I don't work on me, not as nice to people either. So
Yeah.
it's
Kind of a
a little
dick.
shorter, a
Kind
little
of a
more
jerk,
direct.
man. Well, where are you from originally?
So I live in Louisville, Kentucky. I've been there most of my adult life. So
Oh, you have? Okay. Okay. I hear
yeah,
a little
yeah.
bit of East Coast. I heard a little bit of.
Well, I grew up in Ohio. I
Okay.
grew up in
All right.
Ohio.
So
So
touching those
there's
states
some,
over there. Yeah.
yeah, I got a little bit of y'all and I got a little bit of doing.
How
So
you doing, y'all? How you doing, y'all?
yeah, yeah. So I mix it up. A couple things you said earlier that struck me. For one, the $100. How can I best use the resources to get the most out of it? But two, what struck me the most out of that story was I couldn't help but think, first off, when you start with $100, everyone you're competing against is Goliath. So
Yeah.
you know, it's not just a few; they're all bigger, right?
Yeah.
But it would be so easy, and I wonder. Here, you had something that you could sell, you could help people, you could give back, pay forward, all of the above. I mean, you have something valuable. But you're cutting up the business cards. You're making these, and think about this. You're on a topic of leadership here. All
Yeah.
right. So who's going to come work with you? Who's going to hire you when you're coming to me about leadership with this crap? And I'm only saying that
Yeah.
because I think there's a lot of people that, whether it's leadership or what other vertical they're thinking about getting into, these are the limiting beliefs that creep into our head. And it would be very easy for you in your situation to be like, I'm not ready yet. I've got to get this set up. I've got to have this, rather than just do.
Yeah.
So unbelievable.
Yeah. So I guess my mindset there, so a couple of things. As I go through life, like every single day, and this is as I'm sitting here on this podcast, and even you're talking to me, it's this little guy over here. Matt, you're awesome. You're amazing. This podcast is going well. You're crushing it. We're bringing value. You're contributing. This other guy's like, Scott doesn't like you. Like this is what's going through. I have this little guy. You suck. The voices from my past of you're going to go to prison. You're never going to be enough. Everybody's dead. Everybody's in prison. That's where you're going to end up too. You're full of shit. Like I battle with that literally on a daily basis. And I just say that because when I'm working with somebody, I understand they do too, and my story of success when I was kicked out of that bank, I just remember circling the drain. Like, do I go back in and punch this guy in the face that just fired me? Like that was circling my mind. I was considering committing not nice acts to just going back in there and letting them have it. Or do I just go get a job somewhere, just go back to the sandwich shop or the shoe store or whatever I was doing before the painting, or am I going to go after this? And I made that decision. So what I realized that was important for me that I hope people can hear, or I want them to know is, I made that decision and then I moved forward with it. And there's always going to be that doubt. There's always going to be those voices. You've got to consider the internal or external. So most of the time it's my own self telling me that I suck. But those come from other places and other people. And then there's just going to be the flat out haters that, like, somebody posted something about our jiu-jitsu school the other day. That's cool. Like, good for you, dude. Like, you go do your thing. I'll go do mine. So I have a harder time fighting my own voices or doubts. As you bring it back to, hey, I got $100. Who's going to hire me? I just went out. I needed to eat. I wasn't going to not eat. I'm going to bring it home, however, and I'm not coming home. Like I told Emily, I'll be home when I have some money in my hands.
Haters don't bother me. I'll tell you why they don't bother me. And I know everybody says no one. I think the common thing people say is you'll never hear anybody succeeding at a higher level than you hate on you. Right.
Yes.
So, and that, which is true. And what it really means for me, and the reason it doesn't bother me is, for the most part, when people hate on you, it's usually from people that aren't even qualified for the opinion they're talking about or the topic
Yes.
they're not even qualified to give it. I'm not saying opinions don't matter. Opinion's an opinion, perception, everyone has their own. But the reality is most people that hate on you, they're not even qualified to talk on the topic. They haven't been there. They haven't done it. And if they have, they're probably not at a higher level, or they wouldn't waste their time talking about you to begin with.
Or they, yeah, and it's funny. So I wrote a book, Painted Baby, and it's all about storytelling and being vulnerable and sharing your worst moments. And that when you do that, one of the fears is that, well, what are people going to say if I'm not painted perfect? Because we paint a picture of perfection, and that prevents true connection with people. So my challenge in the book is, hey, you've screwed something up. You have a dirty little secret. Share that story. Share and build a compelling story around your biggest imperfection, and use that to actually connect with people. And in chapter 9, I talk about feedback matters, but not all of it. And I have 7 questions to filter feedback. So whenever anybody's giving you feedback, whether that's you to yourself or hater, is like, who are they? Are they qualified? So is it your broke uncle giving you financial advice? You better not listen to him. And we know that, like, we see broke Joey uncle telling us what we should do with our money, and he doesn't have any. So that's easy to say. But how many times is there the same broke Joey uncle telling you about something else? Where you're taking that at face value. It's like, hold on, no experience, no relevance, no anything. And I see this a lot with family of origin, right? So the blood is thicker than water. Like, okay, sure. But just because, I see a lot of entrepreneurs that have broken away from a family of, say, just employees, and that employee mindset. Well, my family's telling me I feel I owe it to the family just because it's the family. It's like, okay, I know they're your family. Do they have your best intentions in mind? Think about that. Do they have experience in what they're talking about? And intention is huge. Like, Scott, if you and I are friends and we have established a relationship and I know that you care for me, hating is not, just because it's negative doesn't mean it's hate. You could say, hey, Matt, built a relationship with you. I got to tell you something. You're kind of a jerk here, and you have good intentions. I should stop and listen to that. What is the outcome you want for me? You want me to be better. You're not trying to cut me down. So I go all through that in chapter 9. And then at the end of the day, some people, just 5% of the world is crazy, and they're living in a reality of some weird sci-fi movie that I got no relation to at all. And that's okay too.
That percentage. When did you write this book? I feel like that percentage has increased recently.
Well, we'll talk. That's a whole other podcast. I'm happy to park that and come back to it. Yeah. So I actually started writing Painted Baby in and out in about 2016, but I spent all last year, 2022, just given it my all and my best, and it launched January of 2023. So it's nice. just out. Yeah. And it's been beautiful to see. I originally wrote it as a business book. It's connect with clients through brave and vulnerable storytelling. Like, here's how you close more business. Here's the process. Here's how you share this story. But I have a lot of men and a lot of guys in the business space saying, hey, this really made me think about the way that I'm behaving and operating and doing life. So is really cool how it's impacting people at a deeper level. But yeah, I think after COVID and through COVID, just the way everybody was divided and became divided, that a lot of people got emotionally hijacked and went to their own sides, their own camps, their own groups. And here we are. It would be really cool to see if there could just be this overarching blanket of forgiveness for anything that was said or done during those 24 months. Because even myself, like, I did it too. But I saw a lot of relationships that I would never imagine would have ended or went the way they went because somebody was so concerned about mask, no mask, vax, no vax.
I was the perfect human during COVID.
Yeah, me too.
Let me ask you. So when we do our mastermind, our leadership retreats, when we do our mastermind, the breakout session parts, inevitably, no matter what we're trying to solve, all right, at some point, if you don't have the right leadership and culture, no matter what action steps or process we're creating there or breakthrough that we're generating or coming up with, you still need the right leadership. You still need the right culture to make sure it actually gets done, and more importantly, gets done right. So in what ways do you believe the jiu-jitsu, all right, has helped you with a culture of, like, say, high performance within your teams?
Yeah, I love it. And
or even engagement, because,
Mhm.
you know,
So jujitsu is really cool. It's funny as you look at it from the outside. If you didn't know anything about it and you watched it, it looks like a bunch of people. It's a, I wouldn't say male dominated sport, but there's usually a higher percentage of males. But it looks like a bunch of guys rolling around in pajamas, like hugging and sweating on each other. Kind of weird, right? Like, guys are sweating
well,
on each other, rolling around.
that's
Kind of
what's good
weird.
about the is it gi?
The
Is that
gi,
right?
yeah,
That's
yeah. So
what's good
grab
about
my
that.
little
It
pajamas and hug you.
absorbs the sweat.
It does.
It's not upper torso versus upper torso just sweating together.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
yeah. And then you got some guys that are sweat. They'll sweat right through the gi. Some
oh,
guys don't wear a shirt under. But the point is, when you look at it from the outside, it's kind of interesting. It's its own community. So part of stepping onto the jujitsu mats is you're going to literally go engage in physical combat with somebody where you can go 100% to try to make them give up, right? Choke them, and if not, choke somebody, they go to sleep. I've broken a foot in a tournament. The guy didn't tap and his foot got broken. And then at the end, it's like, hey, you okay? Are we good? Let's go have a beer. Let's go hang out. So it's this environment in which you're giving it your all, you're testing, you're pushing your limits, you're under pressure, you're under adversity, and you have this other person that at one moment they're competing against you, but it's for your benefit. And no matter what happens, you're friends, like your friends at the end. I just think that's such a cool, the way that just plays out on the jujitsu mats when you can bring that into, we bring that upstairs to our conference room. So Steven and I, a lot of our team members, we pay for them and their immediate family for free. They train all they want.
oh wow.
And one of my guys, Steven, got his blue belt. That's a big accomplishment in jujitsu, and he lost 100 pounds. So I razz him. He's not on the mats as much anymore, and he's building our roofing division. Right, he's the VP of our roofing division, and I'm like, "What you doing, man?" And kind of razzing him, like, "I'm like, come choke. You haven't been on the mats." He's like, "Well, I'm just breaking necks and signing checks or collecting checks. Is his thing." So it's that, so get to push him, get to challenge him, get to motivate him. And it's a loving environment, but also one in which I'm gonna put pressure on you to make you better because I love you. And it's there's not a lot of environments where the beauty of that happens. Or maybe there are, but that's just the environment in which I see that beauty happen, right? This is just through my experience and a lens. For me, when you can teach somebody how to protect themselves in a moment that really matters, where their life is on the line, and then see that happen. Like, I had a police officer get attacked and almost killed in a bathroom at McDonald's, and I saw what jujitsu did to save his life and the life of the guy that tried to kill him. There's a connection, there's a relationship that he and I have that I don't have with a lot of other people. So when that all being said, on the jujitsu mats, upstairs in the boardroom, when you can create an environment with those kind of things being facilitated, your company can get through anything.
So you brought up my personal mission statement earlier. One little element of it, just a sentence or two, is, I have a very high priority on self-development, and I'm always looking to improve my mental health, my physical health, my spiritual awareness and knowledge. And financial success is a high priority, but I put in there, not at the expense of my values and relationships.
Yeah.
And so my question to you is, how do you balance that pursuit of profit with people and relationships?
Love that you ask that. And if you focus on the profit, the people will run. When you pour into people, you focus on the people, the profit will come. And I share this, and it sounds great. That's one of my catchphrases, right? But the point
I'm
is
writing it down.
Yeah, when you focus on the profit, the people will run. When you pour into people, the profit will come. Because as I grew M&D painting, I went from $100 in the bank, 6 figures in debt, to multimillionaire Matt standing at the top of this $1 million mountain of success with everything to prove to the world because of my past. And I'm standing there like, this isn't so great. I didn't bring anybody else up there with me. Like, and I wrote the book in 2011. I had all the awards and all of this, all the shiny marketing brochure. Nobody cared. I didn't bring anybody up. I didn't make millionaires. I made myself a millionaire. Like, what is that? What is that? Like, that's great. People come to me because they want that. But what they don't realize is, if that's all you get, that's a pretty like, I wasn't happy. That wasn't a great thing. That's not why God designed me. That's not why I'm here. So I came back down that mountain, and that's when I really started focusing on my leadership. This was like 2012, 2013, Scott, when I said, man, like, I'm kind of a dick to work for. I'm a real dick to work for. All this money, all these accolades, but I've focused on the profit. And I'm curious why nobody wants to stay around here. And a coach called me out and he said, well, you're the common denominator, dude. And nobody can tell you that because you're kind of a jerk. So I've focused literally, I think about the money. I have projections. I have P&Ls. I know how much money's in my bank. But something comes up. Somebody's got a family issue. Somebody needs me. Cool. We can stop business right now because you're more important. Your family's more important. Your story's more important. And magically, as I've just put people first, we haven't had an issue with profit.
Yeah.
We've had market change dynamics, rising cost, all of those things. But at the end of the day, my people, our team, they're not my people, our team knows where my heart is. And when it's on the line, I am never going to make a penny, $1, $100, $1 million at the expense of their life, their story, their legacy, and what really matters here.
I just think most successful entrepreneurs, if they look at their journey, there's always peak. No one just is a straight line up, right? So there's always some valleys in there, right? Some challenges. And most entrepreneurs probably started whatever business, whatever company they started, and their sole focus was, whether it was on their team or their clients or their prospects, how do we create more value? How do we do this better? How do we support everybody better, right? And then all of a sudden you get real successful. Then what happens is you start thinking, all right, now how can I squeeze a little bit more profit out of this, out of that? So when you talk about pouring into people and chasing the money or chasing and supporting the people, listen, I think a lot of entrepreneurs ride that roller coaster, and if they're honest with themselves, they'll sit there and say, when they focus not about them, meaning the bottom line only, the success was so much better. Because what happens is, first off, the culture improves, and then it's the team that drives the profit. It's not your adjustment.
Well, can I share something funny? Because I've squirrel moments in my mind, and this is literally where my mind went when you started talking about squeezing. I love fresh squeezed orange juice, and I lived in Spain in college, so they have just amazing fresh squeezed orange juice. And I was complaining to my wife this weekend because we bought a new high-tech orange juice squeezer, and I'm literally counting the cost of a cup of orange juice. And I was there this weekend, and I'm like, squeeze every little bit out of this orange, and then you throw it in the trash. And as you're saying this, it's right. It's like, how can I squeeze more juice out of this orange? And I already have this humongous cup of juice. Like, literally this weekend, I'm like, let's make 3 cups of juice instead of 2 cups. I already have, I have $1 million. I have 2 cups of juice, and I'm squeezing the life out of this orange. Just go grow oranges and inspire them to squeeze it out of themselves. And then everybody's going to have a whole bunch of juice. And just when you said that, I'm just thinking of this analogy. It's like, what is the focus? Or, are you self-focused? Do you want something out of this? Of course we all want something, but I was at that place. I literally squeezed every little drop of everything. And I said, well, I give you a profit bonus. It's like, man, they just wanted to feel loved, valued, accepted, have some certainty, and have a place where they feel safe and they know that you've got their back. I left an organization that I was a part of because they didn't have my back. It's just a volunteer position, something that I love doing, that I'll always do, but just not with this place. Because when it came time for rubber meets the road, made a decision, they didn't have my back. And if people come to you for the money, they come to you for that's the first question they ask. That'll be the first reason they leave. So don't have that be the first discussion that you have. People don't necessarily want that. We probably offer more in benefits from a monetary value amount than we do the monetary pay, salary, hourly, commission.
That's a good point.
I want some orange juice now. I love orange bubbly water too. Sorry, I'm addicted to this and coffee. And now fresh squeezed orange juice is my thing.
You got all these successful companies. I get bombarded, through pride. A lot of people message me on social stuff, uh, in my DMs, and a lot of entrepreneurs are on here talk about the grind and the work ethic, and listen, all true. There's no one no one gets it, makes a lot of money and has high levels of success without putting in the time and the effort. But you got all these different companies, right? Talk to me about how you balance that work-life balance.
Yeah. I don't, because there isn't any. I would say that would be my short answer. And I love Gary Vee. I love the gritty. I love Jersey guys, right? Like Jersey guys, success story, and grind, hustle, hustle, hustle. That's cool.
Yeah.
Like I want my kids to see that I'm working hard. I want people to know, like, no one's gonna outwork me. Great, got that, been there, done that. I can go start another company. Um, my Whether I leave my kids $1 million, $2 million, $10 million, $100 million, what Haley really loves about daddy, my daughter, what Riley really loves about daddy, that's my son, is like, Riley, I hiked the Camino with him in Spain. We hiked 70 miles over 6 days. I turned off my phone last year and we had that experience together. That's what he's going to remember. That's what he's going to talk about. I was just over, I go to Spain with my children. I just went to the Feria de Sevilla, the Seville Fair in Spain with my daughter Haley. We're dressed up, suits. She's got her dress. We're dancing, eating churros and chocolate till 2 a.m. That's what you do there. Which that cost money, right? I need to work to have money to provide that experience, but I don't, take any of the money with you when you go. And I've never met anybody that received an inheritance from their well-to-do parents, grandparents, uncle, that was more important than the lessons that person taught them. So as I'm doing all of this, again, I'll drop anything right now. Like if my family calls me right now, I got to go, Scott. Like, sorry, get a call, got to go.
Yeah.
And that's the guiding, that's my guiding count. So I love what I do. I don't work a day in my life with what I do, because I get to share stories with people to make their life better. And like I'm getting paid right now. This still blows my mind. I'm taking a leadership retreat in September. I'm taking 10 men on the Camino. It's the St. James pilgrimage.
Nice.
It's a 500-mile hike. We're going to do 70 miles, 6 days to unplug, disconnect, recenter, refocus, revision, and then have them come back recommitted and rejuvenated to why they're here, what their purpose is. And then we're going to do this adventure experience in May, kind of like an amazing race, immersion. They're immersed in language, leadership, culture, and it's going to push them out of their comfort zone. The people coming, it's open to 6 people. And like I'm receiving the payments for these, and I'm just like, 20 years ago, I fell in love with Spain for the first time. 10 years ago, I said, I'd love to take people there someday. 2 years ago, I paid $50,000 out of my own pocket to take my team there to launch this program. And now I'm getting paid. This is wild. It's fun.
Yeah.
Making lives better.
And you just said something. So I think work-life balance is just a bullshit thing. I think a lot of people define it as, all right, I work until here and then I block time and I've got to, now it's my to me, work-life balance is, first off, you've got to love and live a life of purpose and fulfillment. But it's all it's all one. It's not this divided thing.
Yeah. So my wife, Emily, like my wife on paper, I think scheduled this podcast with you. She's my podcast booking manager. So we're sitting here having coffee at our coffee bar, talking about life and the kids and school. And so it all mixes together. But what I tell people, so for me, how I view things is right now I'm in a season. I was just in Spain 2 weeks ago for 3 weeks with my daughter. Leading up to that trip, I said, Emily, Haley, Riley, Dad's going to be pretty busy, going to be working longer hours, launching the book. Audible's coming out after that. A lot of podcast appearance. I probably went on 90 podcasts in 90 days. It was just a lot of podcasts. But then, Haley, I'm going to be chilling with you in Seville, and we're going to the fair, and we're riding horses, and we're doing our thing. And we're going to Portugal. We went to Morocco. And then, so that works for me. I'm an extremist. I'm an all-in guy. So now I'm back from Spain, and I'm going to Kenya with my son in July for 2 weeks. With Restoration Project. It's a Christians Men nonprofit that restores and facilitates and grows relationships between fathers and kids. So like Haley's like, Dad, I got enough of you for 3 weeks. Like, don't need any, So that's just how we do things. So I work in these phases of almost, I wish they did school this way too. 10 weeks on, 2 to 3 weeks off, or for about every quarter, roughly, I'll take a couple weeks off. And That works for me.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. So I've got two daughters. I've got one child out of school. I've got one about to be out. She'll be a senior next year in college at University of Kentucky. But then I've got two. I got one that's entering. I'm really aging myself. And by the way, it's going to sound, I have a child every 10 years, whether I need one or not, Matt.
Hey, it's all good.
But
every 10?
Well, it can't happen anymore. I finally, my wife said, oh, no, we're done.
What are you? You're like 40. You're like 40 something, right?
I appreciate that. No, it's up higher. But
40.
No,
you're
I'm
50 something. All right.
Yeah, I'm 54.
That's young, man. We're young. Yeah,
So,
we're young.
Well, it's the new 40s. So, or 30s, whatever it was. But once I get Sophia through high school, I think I'm going to homeschool the youngest. And the reason for that is I'm tired of working around the school schedule for all these things I want to do. And so just like you're sitting here talking about all these trips, we're going to hire someone to either travel with and or do a lot of online stuff and or come to the home. And I think it's going to do that. And then I also don't have to mess with all the other crap that goes on. And I don't want to get into all that, but
no. And that's great. And it's, you say that, and I'm thinking that, I took her out of school. We were leading right up to finals week. And I said, school, give her all the work, give her all the everything. She got one project, take a picture of 4 different sculptures and write about them. So I'm like, we can knock that out in about 30 minutes. The minute we touched down in Spain, literally, she didn't miss a beat.
Plus it's relevant and it's probably enhanced the trip too.
But what the hell is she doing for the 3 weeks of school that she missed if she was there? Because all they gave her, and it didn't affect her grade, nothing. That's all. So I'm saying we're here for 3 weeks, and we met people, learned language. We got attacked at a taxi station. We had to physically defend ourselves. She did a little bit of that. We went to another country and met this wonderful, beautiful little 3-year-old child and spoke a little Arabic and a little French. Like all these things we did, these experiences. And we missed school. You're taking her out of school. What's going to happen to her grades? She got one project, take 4 pictures of some sculptures, write about them. She did a little math, did a little something else on Microsoft Teams. Like that's what she's spending 40 hours a week, or would have been spending 40 hours a week doing. She's not going back to that school.
We're scheduled for an hour. You got time for a few more minutes?
Oh yeah. Let me just check my calendar. Yeah, I think I got a call coming. I do have some time. Hold on a minute. Because I'm having fun. I don't want to leave. I have a call at like 3:15.
All right. So you're a couple hours behind me. All right. So the market adapts quick, right? There's a lot of, I think, especially right now, I mean, change happens very fast.
Yeah.
How has the jiu-jitsu helped you teach other business leaders, first off your own company, but other business leaders in terms of adapting and being flexible like that and going with the change?
Yeah, because in jiu-jitsu, you're physically engaging with another person, and they might be trying to choke you. They might be trying to choke you, and you're defending the choke. You're defending the choke, and then they're like, okay, this is not working for them. I'm defended. Then they go grab your leg and put you in a leg lock. So all of a sudden, like they went to a different hemisphere of your body. We call it below the belt, going south, whatever you call it. So that's business, right? This is working. This is working. This is working. COVID. Oh, now we can't get together. You've got to be able to pivot like that.
Great example.
And I mean, that's the biggest one. And you can't be so set in your ways. Here's another thing. I love jiu-jitsu because your strength, like where I'm good at jiu-jitsu, my superpower, my leading leadership language, that can also be your Achilles heel. So I make fast decisions based on, I know where I stand. I know what I value for. I'm going to make a quick decision. Sometimes we need to slow it down. So Incredible Hulk smashes through walls. He doesn't finesse things. So when the business calls for finesse and I say, oh, I'm going to go take care of it. We don't need, I'm literally a bull in a china shop, 6 shots of espresso deep, 2 p.m. That's just my style. The business right now in a certain capacity, and one of the businesses needs some very methodical, slow, well thought out systems and process. I hate that stuff. I'm not good at that stuff.
Yeah.
So just learning when to step out of an engagement that you don't bring that skill set for. So,
You know,
yeah.
you brought up COVID, and you're talking about, I love that, and that example. When COVID hit, and I thought I was out, right? I thought I was out of the day-to-day operations of the business, but in reality, our pivot into digital, probably the direction we're in now, probably took an extra year, maybe 2 years longer than it should have. And a lot of that had to do, we had two heads. We had the president that I said's running the show, and then we had me, who thought I was out, but still had a foot in there messing things up for him, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
so
Oh, yeah.
what happened with COVID, I was in California on a self-development thing in California. I was scheduled for 2 weeks. And in the first week, at the end of the first week, that's when they canceled the tournament, and like everything, the NBA, everything's just steamrolled within that like 2-day window, right? Everything was boom, boom, boom.
Yep.
And I remember thinking, because this is when I thought you kind of had the sense that they might be shutting down the domestic flights. And I'm all the way in California. I live in Louisville, Kentucky. And I'm like, well, if they're going to do that, I may not be able to get a rental car. I'm not going to be stuck out in California for who knows how long I'll be out here. And so I remember thinking, I got to cancel this retreat. I only had my phone for like an hour at night. All right. So it was unplugged. It was an unplugged type thing. So I'm like, I'm on with Amex. I'm getting my flight. I'm like, give me the earliest what. And by the way, I didn't breathe easy until that plane hit ground in Louisville. I was thinking, I just want to get somewhere close to home.
It's like Independence Day when you're running from the fire from the
horrible
right in front of it.
But what happened was, because you could make the argument during that period, that was one of the most trying times for most businesses. And I think a lot of businesses came out of COVID much better than they even when they were, prior to COVID. And I think a lot of great lessons were learned. But one that came for me was, I was unplugged for a week during our business's a very chaotic time. And our president handled this to perfection, to where literally I didn't have to do a damn thing. I wasn't even involved in any of the decisions. And he did things over and above what I thought I wouldn't even thought of certain things.
Yeah.
So what happened for me was, I came back and I realized, I can let go. I can. It was a great thing for me, because it allowed me to just to not just step away physically, but mentally. Some would argue I was already there physically, but not mentally.
The coolest thing, and this is that ultimate level of leadership, is us as entrepreneurs. We have that entrepreneurial superhero syndrome. Like, I know everything. I can come in, I can save the day, I can close the deal, and we're heroes. Woo! And I stole this from my good friend Mike McAllowicks. He talks about this in his book Clockwork. Is as we fly in and swoop in and save the day, like we cause a bunch of damage, we wreck the city, and you totally disempower, like you're the savior, you helped, but you've just limited and wrecked and destroyed any position, credibility, authority that you've given to your team as you've delegated and scaled. So the coolest thing is, in that story, you were almost forced in a way you couldn't be present, and now your team's got to make decisions. So I left for Spain. And I'll share a story. I'm sitting in my podcast studio. We have this big podcast studio around me here. And I shared the vision. And if I would have stayed during those 3 weeks, I know what I would have done and how I would have laid it out. And it would have been this way. I came back and they executed my vision for this studio and everything in the coffee. But we have a free coffee bar for the community, everything in this building. I came back and was blown away. And they literally put tape over the cameras. I had zero access to see what was going on, know what was going on. I asked my wife, what's going on in there? What's going on in there? Why are the cameras covered? I'm looking at the cameras. She goes, Matt, we got it. Just go enjoy Spain. And I came back, and when I got out of my own way, you got out of your own way, and the team performs and better than they would have if I was there.
That's right.
And when I'm there. So now I'm like, I'm going to go to Spain again. I'm going to leave more. Can't totally leave, right? But we do that.
After that happened, that's when I stepped away, and I thought, well, gosh, this is what I've been working for. But that's what I went through, and I said, I got to go to Costa Rica.
Well, and then we get there, right? And I think as people, it's like that's the ultimate dream is that we can leave and then we come back and it's running. But there is a sense of like I feel missed, or hey, do they need me? Am I not valued? There's it kind of this ultimate like success, right? Or you arrived at this place. It still plays these weird, at least for me, these mind tricks of, well, maybe I'm not needed, maybe I'm not the guy. It's like, well, maybe I wasn't the guy. So
Yeah.
there's always this, where do we go from here?
Well,
What's
for
that next
me,
level?
I knew there was more out there and I wanted to do other things. What I did not want to do, I didn't want to start something for the sake of starting something. But the problem was I had no idea. Everyone says follow your passion. And listen, I'm passionate about a lot of things. I mean, but I think they don't fully understand what they mean. Passion alone isn't going to make you successful, especially if you've already had a certain level of success. You've got to be willing to go through that grind again. And so it's got to, like you said, it can't feel like a grind, right? I mean,
Yeah.
There's
got to be
it's not going to happen.
A bigger purpose over. Like, it's funny. I hate painting.
Correct.
I'm not good at painting. Roofing. We have a roofing company that we're building. I'm scared of heights. I don't like to climb on roofs. Now, obviously, I'm a jiu-jitsu instructor, professor. I know how to teach that. But it's one of those things where for me, I need to get down into the weeds of the business when I launch it. But it's never been about that particular thing itself. It's what that thing provides. So I love jiu-jitsu, the movements, the sport, but it's like, man, that provides me such a sense of certainty. It's kept my family safe. I've seen what it's done for other people whose lives it's saved and changed. So it's not about the jiu-jitsu. Like, there's schools that have better technical jiu-jitsu instruction than we do, and we know that, right? It's not about that. There's a bigger purpose. So yeah, when you can key in on that purpose, when you have the hard day of to sit and look at books like bookkeeping for 3 hours and another hour and a half this morning, I hate that. Like, but I know why I'm doing it, so I can sit here and still pulling my hair out. But yeah.
I don't like those details either. What final piece of advice would you give leaders out there to become better leaders? What have we not talked about that you think needs to be said?
The last thing I would share, and this I know speaks to me, and I shared this with a young man on a podcast, is we're just hard on ourselves. There's so much out there in social media land where we compare this painting this picture of perfection. Look at the 6 companies that Matt has, and look at what Scott's done. These guys on this podcast, we're just people at the end of the day. Like, I royally stepped out of purpose this morning and just said some things that I shouldn't have said. Like, that's my day, just about every day. But you're further along than you probably think. Stop comparing yourself and your journey. I'm literally in the basement of a house in Wellington, Colorado, with 3 ex-felons on Saturday on the Reformed Bad Boys podcast. And I'll just share, there's a gentleman there named Steve. And these guys didn't just go, like, they weren't stealing candy bars. They were killing people, robbing people. They were in maximum security prison, all of them. Amazing, beautiful, God-loving guys, right? They're out of jail. They're Reformed bad boys. Steven's kind of newer to the journey. So he's like, man, I'm losing my shit still. And, he's like, I go, what were you doing a year ago? He's like, shanking prison guards and holding police hostage for 36 hours. I'm like, and now you're in the basement on a podcast talking to a couple of other successful guys that, sure, they're further ahead of you, but you're just comparing your story to my business story. And it was really interesting. He was being hard on himself, and he didn't see the journey that he had made because he was comparing himself to where he was in relation to somebody else's journey. And we can't see our own growth. So wherever you're at, stop, see where you're at. Where were you? Whatever your issue is right now. I just get so angry all the time. Well, how often? Let's measure it. How angry were you getting, or whatever the issue is, a day ago, a week ago, and then find that place and see that journey you've made and pat yourself on the back. Social media doesn't let you do that.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. But I want to do that for you. I want to give you those tools. Like, I love you. I believe in you. I'm proud of you. You've got this. Go get it. Love yourself a little bit more, and reach out to people that are also, and be with people that are supporting and loving you and helping you realize how far along you've come in your journey. And if they're not, and they're a detriment to that, or they're making you feel bad about it, I'd consider firing them from your life. in some way,
No,
shape, or form.
listen, that's a great point. You know, you also got to remember everyone's dealing with their own
Yeah.
stuff, no matter how great they make their lives look on social.
Yeah.
So, you know, go
Yeah.
through your own journey and pay attention and be grateful for the things. And, that's one thing I will tell you this. One thing that's helped me with that, what you just said, a little tip to all, I mean, I journal every night now, and I journal specifically to, what actions did I do today that took me further or closer to my purpose and living that purpose? And also, what did I do today that took me further away, and why?
Yeah.
Um, so I could try to recognize it consciously when it happens, right? But, uh, focus on that good stuff as well. I mean, don't sit there and like, whatever it takes. That works for me. It's something I never used to do, but it's helped a lot.
And just one more thing to add, because it just brought up, I think, a very important point is, what are those things that I did that are driving me towards purpose? They're building and showing the best version of me. Find
Yeah.
out what that is and do more of that. But then also in the, what are the things that pulled me away from that? Watch that. But then there's also, what is that thing that can totally take you out to where, like, whoever doesn't, whatever power you call it, that doesn't want you to accomplish that purpose. Everybody's got that one thing, that two things that can really take them out. And this is like a whole nother, we'll come back and do round two another day, but know
You're
what that
spot on
is.
here. This could be a whole
Be,
discussion on this.
whether that's for men, like, I'm serious. Like, is it
Yeah.
alcohol? Is it pornography? Is it looking at girls' butts? Like, whatever it is, everybody's got that something. Like, I know what mine is. You know what yours is, and have somebody you can talk to about that in a real, vulnerable, honest fashion. Hey, when I get into this environment with these kind of people, it brings me back to this point in my story in my life. And then I start drinking a lot of whiskey and I don't stop. And if I do that too many times, I know that will ultimately lead to my business crashing and burning and me losing my family. Seriously.
Yeah.
And just be able to just state that with at least one other person in your life. And I think, like, Emily, my wife, she's got 3-4 girls, ladies she can do that with. I've got one guy. That's cool. It's all I need. But a lot of guys don't have any.
Yeah. Good point. All right, we're going to end it there. So, by the way, you're right. I think we could have a second episode on that topic alone.
Let's do it. I'm here anytime.
That's good. We're going to have you back. So when we start a different podcast, at some point, I'm going to be turning over Move, Crush, Count to the president. I was mentioning earlier, Jamil Zabaneh.
Yeah.
He'll take on this one, and I'm going to be starting. It's funny you mentioned whiskey. I'm going to be starting a podcast called Business Bourbon and Cigars. And so, but it would be an outstanding one because it's all going to be all about business and leadership and stuff like that. I'd love to have you back. But that is another episode that wraps today's episode of Move, Crush, Count with Matt Shoup. Listen, it's a great discussion. We went off on a few different things here, but I think we kept it pretty much centered on where it needed to be. But man, such good stuff. And I didn't want it to stop. And I think we could keep going. But out of respect for you, I know you got a hard stop here coming up here. So thank you for sharing with us today. For those of you watching, we'll make sure we got this right. It's Matt Shoup. That's SHOUP.com. So MattShoup.com, correct? That's how they can get to you?
It's Shoup, but we didn't talk about that.
Shoup.
And that's my bad. Half my family says Shoup. Whatever you want to call me, just go to Matt Shoup or MattShoup.com, and I got lots of cool stuff that you can follow me and journey with me.
The good news is either way it's pronounced, it's spelled the same.
It is. So, and we still don't know how to really say it. Like, I don't know if it's Shoup or Shoup. Like, half the family says Shoup.
So stay connected with Matt. We can follow you. I guess, what are all the different social networks? Where can they find you?
MattShoup.com. All the links to all my Facebook, LinkedIn, all that. It's all right on that site. Yeah. So that's my place to go find me and start to journey with me.
Nice. So if you enjoyed this episode, everyone, please share it. We don't spend any money promoting Move, Crush, Count. So all our growth comes organically. So rate us, review us, share these episodes. Also, make sure you visit movecrushcount.com and subscribe so you can catch up on all our past episodes and so you never miss a future one. I want to do a quick shout out to our sponsor and thank them, J&L Marketing, the digital and direct marketing agency that helps you outsmart your competition so you don't have to outspend them. Check out jnlmarketing.com. so you can find out how their innovative approach will help you move the crowd, crush the competition, and count the money. Thank you. We'll see you on the next episode. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Scott.